Okay, so we're going to continue with our chapter 2, finish it up. So we're going to be talking about Jamestown and the British, the English first coming to the Americas. So John Cabot was sponsored by Britain, who paid for his trip, landed in Newfoundland in 1497 and claimed it for England, which I'm sure you guys know conflicts with some of the other claims earlier, but that's okay. The first attempted English settlement was on Roanoke Island in North Carolina, and it was founded in 1585 by Sir Walter Raleigh. Now, Raleigh was there for a little while, set up the settlement, and then left. And in 1590, when he returned, the colonists had disappeared. Raleigh was supposed to come earlier with various supplies to reinforce the settlement. However, various things, illnesses and injuries and other things kind of in wars delayed him from coming. When they returned, the word Croatoan, which you can see in the picture there as kind of an artist's rendering, was carved in a doorpost on the settlement. Now, Croatoan was an island near where Roanoke was, and so they went to look for them there, and nobody was there either. So one of the most accepted theories is that the reason why they disappeared is because they actually assimilated with some of the Native American populations in the area. I'm sure a lot of them were killed. I'm sure a lot of them, the people died from starvation and disease, the British, but they think a lot of, there is some evidence that suggests that some of the British were actually joined some of the Native American groups in the area. All right. In 1607, Jamestown was founded in Virginia, and you can see it here on the map. Roanoke Island is kind of in this area, so Jamestown is a little bit further north. Now, this was not exactly the smartest place for it. Strategically, it was good because it was you could see around the whole thing, so you can see if anybody was coming up the river or coming down from the river. So it was a good strategic place militarily. However, it was not a good place to settle. There were mosquitoes and powerful surrounding Native American tribes, which they would continue to have problems with. The settlers tended to be gentlemen and craftsmen, and they didn't have really any knowledge in farming, and so they weren't exactly the best equipped people to be trying to start a new settlement in a foreign land. Now, John Smith, I'm sure you guys have seen, you may have heard or seen about the movie Pocahontas. The Disney version is very fictionalized. There was a newer movie that came out that had, I think, Colin Farrell in it, and it was okay, but it still wasn't very accurate. But Captain John Smith, and you can see he's pictured here with the red beard, he took over the Jamestown settlement, and he was actually very good about creating relationships, whether through force or just by good diplomatic relations, and improved the relations with the Native Americans, and also had some help by Pocahontas, which was one of the chief's daughters. There was no romantic relationship there at all. She was very young when they first met, so a lot of the stories about him are false. But after John Smith left in 1609, the colony suffered a time period called starving time. And so when after Smith returned to England, everything kind of fell apart. The Indians refused to trade with the settlers, and so only 60 of the original 500 people that were left when Smith left were still there when John Smith returned 6 months later. So that's a huge increase in the people who died. Another Englishman who came on the second time back with John Smith was a guy named John Rolfe. And he actually ended up marrying Pocahontas, which, of course, helped settle the disputes between the tribes and the British, and which kind of cemented the success of Jamestown. And Jamestown is actually still around, and due to that marriage, trade between the Native Americans and the British resumed, and which allowed the colony to survive. Okay, so now let's finally talk about the Netherlands. So the Dutch also had their hand in exploring. Henry Hudson explored for the Dutch, also looking again for that Northwest Passage, the waterway that would connect the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. He claimed the territory for the Netherlands near the Hudson River and established various settlements along the river. Now, if you remember when we were talking about the French and the Huron Native Americans were allies. The Dutch made the Iroquois Confederacy their allies and supplied guns to the Iroquois to help them fight the Huron and the French. The Netherlands, they also made New Amsterdam, the capital city for the Dutch claim on Manhattan Island, which is now where New York City is located. There is, again, a large fur trade that was going on, and some of the other settlers that were there were not just the Dutch, but the Dutch also allowed Jewish people who were looking for religious freedom were also allowed to settle with the Dutch in this area. Later on, the English drove out the Dutch and renamed the area New York. And that's it for section 2.5 and 2.6, which ends chapter 2. Bye, guys.